Welcome to the Lindsay and Tony podcast, where we talk about spirituality, business, and life experiences.
In this podcast, we're bringing our private conversations to you.
We believe that it's through discussion, action, and reflection that true change occurs.
Hi everybody, welcome to episode 95, our top insights from leading masterminds. In this episode, we're going to share our experiences and what we learned leading retreats, workshops, and in-person masterminds. I hope everybody enjoys the show.
Hi guys, welcome back. We're so excited that you're here. Today's episode is all about our top insights that we received while leading our masterminds. And we're really excited to talk about this topic, but I think before we start, we should probably define what a mastermind is so that everyone knows.
So a mastermind is either a workshop, a retreat, you call them masterminds sometimes, and basically all they are is people getting together to dive deep into a subject, whatever that subject is. So you could run masterminds from any industry, any subject that you can think of, you can do a mastermind for.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, when Lindsay and I were teaching in the public schools, I look at each of our classrooms as a mastermind because you're diving deep on each subject.
Right. There's a group of people, more than one person that gets together with another that is focused on one intention, one topic. And that's when awesome magic takes place, because your focus is on that one area. And we always share this in our episodes, but when you have more than one brain together and you're focused on the same thing, it creates a third brain. Right. So that's why you get rapid results when you're working in masterminds. And it's important that if you're on a team or if you're focusing on one thing, to make sure that you're very clear on what you want out of the group. And I think that's important.
It's definitely important. And you could look at it like it's batteries, to where the more batteries that you have, so each person's brain is a battery, each person is a battery. You put more batteries together in a room, you have more energy. So,
I love that.
And you're able to hit new thresholds. Well, actually, I read it from Think and Grow Rich. He wrote about it in a way like that, but I kind of just paraphrased it to where it really hit home with me when I looked at it that way.
And that's actually the perfect book for you guys, Think and Grow Rich. It's one of those books that you do have to, because I don't even remember that part. There's so many pieces where if you read it more than once, you'll get more out of it in a different way.
Absolutely.
But you'll have to keep on rereading the pages to really grasp the power behind it.
There's a whole chapter on masterminds in there, because it's one of the main core principles for good reason, and the same reason why we're making this episode, because we through leading them and being part of them, we've experienced the power of them.
Yeah. And we've shared this before in our other episode when we touched on masterminds, about how if you're in a marriage, that's a mastermind too. Mm-hmm. So think about how clear you are on your little mastermind. You're living with someone, you're in a mastermind. So that's important. And so whatever you're thinking, whatever you're doing, those little mini action steps throughout the day, that's actually going to accumulate even faster than if you were on your own. So where should we start? Because I think there's so many different pieces. We can go into this in different ways.
There is. So once again, this episode, we're going to be covering masterminds, covering workshops, retreats, anytime you have two or more people coming together to dive deep in a subject. And we're going to be giving you our insights on, what we experience through running these types of events.
Right. So there's some pieces that are really awesome that took place, and other pieces, I could shift that. I've thought about that too.
Always.
We just did a St. Louis mastermind. What month was that in? We did a business mastermind.
That was in November.
The end of November. For psychic mediums. So that was really an amazing experience. I loved doing that mastermind. It was actually, the mastermind was created, I want to say it was 10 to 14 days before it actually happened. So we didn't know we were going to go to St. Louis. We were kind of up in the air if we were going to go for Thanksgiving. And then we thought, you know what? We want to be with family. We'll drive there. And I thought, well, let me create something. Let's do something together where I can, work with my psychic medium students. And we put it out there, and we had some students come to our business mastermind, and it was powerful. just to be in the room with everyone, because everyone offered something different.
Absolutely, it was. And I always compare everything to sports, and I look at masterminds to where it's like a team, to where the people leading the mastermind, they're working together with their different skills and knowledge, and then you have everybody who's part of the mastermind, and they're actually adding their insights into it.
Right.
So if we look at it like that, we're all working together as a team, and you could piece together any mastermind to make it magical if you work together as a team with everybody, the collective group there.
That's true. And the interesting pattern that comes up with us a lot is we attract teachers to us. So in this mastermind, there was a moment where we're all sitting around, and I was like looking around, I'm like, wait a second. All of my examples and stories that I'm sharing within the group for our talks were related to teaching, because I was a third grade teacher. Tony was a teacher in the school system. And I looked around the room and I'm like, wait a second, we're all teachers in this room. So every single one of us was a teacher in the public school system, or somehow, right? Everyone was a public
It was so interesting.
So it was really interesting that kind of, it would make sense that we would all be attracted to each other.
But you'll find that out a lot too, and that's another thing I love about forming these types of groups is the universal law of energy. You attract to you people that are basically mirrors to you, whether with your career or maybe how your relationship with your husband is. That's how the relationship is. So if you have a great relationship, you attract people with great marriages and so on. It's like you find that a lot, I know, with your clients as well as I do too, to where you attract like mirror images of yourself.
That's true. There's different pieces of things.
But it's cool that I added that piece, because that's the other beautiful part about masterminds is you're around people that are just as weird as you are, because we're all weird in our own way. And masterminds are beautiful in a sense to where you might pick a subject or a topic to cover that it's, like mediumship. It's taboo out there, to where now when you're in this mastermind, everybody feels comfortable and you have this new space of insight that starts to come in with the subject, just from being around other people that are similar to you.
Right. And I think that's a good point, because one of our top insights that we've learned is that everyone is equal in the mastermind, right?
That's definitely a huge insight.
Just knowing that.
Just knowing that going in, because before I would get before I was a teacher, I would think, and I started to learn this as a teacher too, and I know that you did too. I started to think, I'm the teacher, so I'm the one, with the knowledge, and it's like, no. You start to realize as you get in there, it's not like that. Everyone's equal, and if you look at it from that space, you start to invite spirit into this mastermind, into this group. And that's another insight that we've both had. Mm-hmm. I know that I had very deeply was the fact that when you all go into it together and you're working together and everybody does feel equal there, you start to invite this spirit in, whether it's God or the universe, whatever. And that's when the masterminds start to become very powerful. That's when the clarity starts to happen. That's when powerful insights into people's own businesses or relationships or whatever they need for life starts to happen, and they start to see very clear.
It is true, and I think that goes along with making, as leaders in leading the mastermind, getting everything together, allowing people to feel safe, making them feel like it's a safe environment to express themselves and feel like they can be contributing, because it doesn't matter who you are, whether you created the mastermind or not, everyone has a little piece to it. And that comes up with one of the pieces that we did in St. Louis. We had like a hot seat time where one person had maybe an issue that was coming up in their business or something that was kind of holding them back and making them feel stuck, and sharing it as a group with the group. And then each of us gave our insight around the table. But you can't just do that easily if you don't feel safe in the group. That's something you have to create a safe environment, because you wouldn't feel comfortable sharing a problem or something that's come up.
Right, because the power is in being vulnerable. And if you're not feeling safe, you're not going to be vulnerable. So you're not going to get the insight that you would get normally.
True, and it's making me think of the first exercise that we did with you, that you led us through in the mastermind. Mm-hmm. And that was a moment of vulnerability. And it was at the very beginning of the mastermind. Tony and I have taken a course, KBB course. It's with Tony and Dean. So I don't know if you want to kind of talk about that, but there's different exercises in that mastermind course. And they talk about using tools. And a lot of the tools that they have in there have different names, but it's stuff that we've done in our classroom when we were teachers in the public
Right,
school
at least there's
system.
something similar to it.
Something similar. Right. But Tony led them through an exercise that really shifted the whole room, and you can feel the energy shift.
Right.
And it was a moment of vulnerability. So do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, and we learned the exercise, a specific one, we learned from KBB, the Knowledge Business Blueprint, which is a course. It's a beautiful course. If you want to learn how to figure out what kind of masterminds you want to create, how to market them, and how to run them all together, I would get that course, the Knowledge Business Blueprint. It's helped Lindsay and I tremendously over this past year that we've been studying it. And that's where I got that. And it's, so the exercise we did that Lindsay's talking about, the St. Louis mastermind we did, it was to figure out, to go very deep inside each person's soul and figuring out why do they even want a successful mediumship business.
Yeah.
So I can't go in all details in what we did with it because it's something you really have to experience. But what I will say is it led to them going very deep within their souls and trying to figure out, like, wait, why do I really want this? Because they noticed at the beginning of the exercise, you know, they were saying all these surface level things that, yeah, that was part of why they wanted to do it, but it wasn't like the root. It wasn't the core. So then we started to go underneath each layer. And this is what masterminds do all together, is you start to go underneath all of these different layers because of the fact that you're doing different exercises, you're being asked different questions. If you're at a good or a great mastermind, all of this will be occurring, that are causing you to go deep within your soul and really figure out what's moving you and your business and everything in your life.
Yeah, no, that's true. And I think the big thing with that exercise that Tony led them through, how we did it was we were at a round table, and the person that was getting the intuitive coaching session by Tony, like leading and asking the right questions and going deeper, they were sitting directly across from him. And if you are sensitive to energy, I don't even think anyone had to be sensitive to energy to feel the energy of this process, because we were sitting in the background. I was actually writing on the board the information that was coming through the person that he was talking with. And you could feel the energy shift in the room, and you could see emotions come from each person, because all of a sudden they discovered something that was within them, but they were led in the direction of finding that answer. So it made it even more powerful the rest of the mastermind, because they knew their why and why they were even doing this work. Because I think that's really common. Something that can come up is when you are working, and I'm putting in quotes, when you're working, you can lose the essence of why you even came to do this work. So he brought them through. So this process of doing that, when we say mastermind, could also be done on a private coaching call, because that's exactly what it was. You just had people around you witness it.
Absolutely, because whether it's on a call or whether it's there, what you're doing is just, you're getting vulnerable, you're connecting deeply with another soul, and then you're allowing spirit to flow through.
Yeah,
and that's the best words. Yeah, it's because we all are. You know, I'm allowing it. The person that's receiving it, they're open to allowing it, because it's a full out game to where everybody must be committed. And that's the thing about these masterminds is committing, and that's a big insight too. Is everybody must commit, just like they did on that one-on-one exchange. Just like they're committing to going vulnerable, they're committing to really being real about what's happening and no sugarcoating whatsoever.
Well, and I think that's important. That's an important piece to it, because sometimes you think the answer is a story that you've been telling yourself for a while, and then when you get questioned in a way that's very loving, firm, but just holding the space for a person, then things come out and you're like, wait, did I really feel like that? Or, oh, that's interesting. I thought it was just for this reason, but it turned into another. So I think asking questions is another top insight that we've had.
It truly is.
Asking the right questions and also moving out of your own way when you're doing this work in a mastermind.
Right.
Don't feel like you have to hold back.
Right.
You know?
And don't think don't think that it's you. Don't think that you have to be the star or you have to be. The power is within everybody else in the mastermind and yourself. So I think that's a great insight there. It takes the edge off too, because you get all this pressure. You're leading this mastermind, like I have to be this star, I have to be this perfect image that I'm seeing in my head. It's like, no, you just have to be you, and then show up as powerfully as you can and serve in the way that you can, understanding that everybody else is going to do the same.
Right, and I think that came with the stories. So if you are putting on a mastermind yourself, or you're, attending a mastermind, one of the big things that I feel like my students and your people enjoy is hearing reality, that things aren't going to be sunshine and roses all the time when it came to the mediumship business. Like, Tony witnessed so many things happen in my business, and he was like my support. So we shared stories on things that could come up. And that was the reality of it. It wasn't like, okay, everyone's going to be happy today. No, let's get to the root of this and figure out what resistance have you experienced with this process of living in your power, and have you fully really put yourself out there in the way that you should. And it's safe to be visible. I think that was like the theme of our mastermind.
It's safe. And what we found was, and what we find in pretty much every mastermind that we've led or been a part of, is people have similar problems. It's like when somebody says, oh, I've been wanting to make a video for the last 2 months and I just been putting it off, and then you'll get like 2 or 3 more people in the group like, that's me too.
And that was me. That the same thing. And remember how we shared in the mastermind, by sharing stories and being vulnerable, it's actually helping other people, by the way.
Absolutely, because then Lindsay would share her story. Well, matter of fact, what I did, I had a flower, right? You had flowers for your picture.
Profile picture.
You were so scared to be out there and putting positive messages out, or whatever you want to call it.
I didn't want to be... I felt like putting myself out there as like the expert when I was just starting felt uncomfortable. So it was better for me to put a yellow flower on my profile picture and call myself Love Energy.
So then they're like, in the mastermind, they're like, oh, you felt uncomfortable too? I can't imagine that. But look, we all go through the same emotions and all of this.
Well, and it's funny because one of the people in there, she was trying to decide what her name would be on her Facebook page. So it went along with exactly what I had been experiencing years before. So it was nice because there is a similarity there. So I think this comes back to another insight, the power of listening. Don't you think? Absolutely,
listening deeply. And like you were talking about earlier, when I was for the St. Louis Mastermind, when I was going over the why exercise, and you said you could just feel in the room the energy changing. That's deep listening. So when you're deep listening, you're not just listening to words, you're listening to like your body. Like if you're getting goosebumps or the energy that's going in your body, you're listening to the pulse of the room. You're feeling everything. You're feeling what the person next to you is feeling, in a sense. You're feeling all, everything around you. You're listening very deeply because there's so much information and wisdom within that when everybody's intention is focused on the same thing there.
Well, it's making me think of something, because for me, I feel like it's really vulnerable to actually be silent. So it makes me feel uncomfortable to be silent for too long. So I was watching Tony doing the session with each member of the mastermind, and he was so great at holding space and staring at them in the eye. They even comment like, wow, I feel like he's looking through my soul. And something shifted just by looking through his eyes. No, seriously. And I'm like, he's really good at that. And I always feel uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Do you look at one eye? Do you look at both eyes?
No,
and I'm in my head of...
It definitely takes time to get comfortable with it. I always talk about
this, with sitting, like, how long do you look at people in the eye? So I felt like it was really good that he literally was fully listening with his mind, body, and soul when he was doing this. And when Tony's present, that's exactly what he does.
She said when Tony's present.
When he's present. And I think doing this whole process of working with different people has actually helped you be a better listener to me too.
That's a huge insight in this, is the presence. So when you're listening, Lindsay brought up listening, it's really being 100% present. Like you're paying attention to everything.
Yes.
And you can feel when people are present, when they're present with you in front of you, it feels very healing and raw, and you don't forget that person. So that's an insight right there, is learning how you can get yourself ready, get your body ready, your mind ready before you go and lead these masterminds, to get in that space to where you're 100% present. You leave all of your worries and everything else at the door.
And we actually did a podcast episode with a study about being present. And I forget the name of the episode, but there was one where there was a study where you actually remember the person that's been present, and they're considered like really charismatic, and you feel heard and understood. So it is important. Are there any other ones? I know we had tons of insights. There was some learning that I learned too. I think being prepared is really important.
Yeah, prepared for sure.
So with preparation comes trying to figure out the schedule. Now for me, I'm more of a last minute non-commitment type of person. Tony is someone that's like very like, okay, let's get this in writing instead of it being in our head. Let's do this now so we don't have to think about it. So we had that good balance of, you know, me having it in my head and then him saying, let's get it on paper, let's organize it. And I think that makes a big difference, to really write out the schedule way ahead of time. But also even the space, when we chose the space that we worked out of, I think that was really important.
It was very important. And we understand that preparing for an event, that's not this huge, big insight, because you should prepare. But the insight is over-prepare. The insight is like, take your preparation as seriously as you do when you're at the event, because it's just going to set up everything to where it flows a lot better. I know that after each event we do, we're thinking of different ways to make it a little bit easier, or you know, I know some events we're printing flyers like that day, like in the past.
Oh God, yeah, that was
to where like
not
you
fun.
learn as you go to like, all right, now I need to do this.
We had to go to like 5 different places because one of them didn't print the right way, and yeah,
you don't realize how many steps goes into actually like preparing for an event.
Exactly.
So,
and I think this goes to the retreat too. We've done retreats now together for a few years.
This will be the third year in a row.
And for me, the 4th year. And when I prepare for the retreats, I do a lot of research ahead of time on where I want to do the retreat and what kind of environment it is. And I think that's very, very important in that process of being together with a group of people, being aware of how can I prepare for each different personality that's coming in? Am I leaving enough time for break time? Do they have enough time to process the information? And I think the last St. Louis event, they actually said, I wish it was longer, because we were talking probably 45 minutes after, because we were so pumped up and excited about the information. So they were like wanting to keep on talking. So we probably could have extended it by an hour. And I think for me personally, there was a couple sheets that I added at the end, like this thing called the wrap-up tool where you share insights. There was a lot of writing that I saved till the end. My insight would be, okay, so I would spread that out a little bit more. I was aware of that. Like, okay, that could be done differently.
Right.
But it was an amazing experience from what took place. So it's good to reflect on it too, so that it's even better for the next time.
Always, definitely.
And that comes into play, reflection.
Definitely.
So we hope this helped you. If you're creating your own mastermind, share with us. Or if you have any questions or any experiences that you'd like to share, please share below. Thank you, guys. We hope you enjoyed this episode as much as we did. If you liked it, leave a 5-star review on iTunes, and remember, subscribe to our YouTube channel too.
If you can think of anyone else that would love this episode, share it with them right now on social media or email. And remember, getting results is a process of learning, applying, and reflecting. Stay consistent and continue to grow every day.